So I thought I'd do a little video about our business evolution, kind of as related to traps, where we started and where we ended up as the business kind of changed and evolved over the years. So in 2005, my family and I moved into a new house. Neighbors to the right, neighbors to the left. There was a mole tunnel running right across the backyard from both neighbors. It was a travel corridor. So I went out and I bought what a lot of homeowners buy, Victor Plunger Style trap. Shortly after, I bought one of these too, Telprid type trap that's kind of primarily owned by Bell Labs today. And I was reasonably successful in resolving my own mole issue. I think I caught somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 moles from 2005, 2006. I figured if I can do this for myself, I can do it for other people. So I threw out a Craigslist ad and picked up some customers just with a Craigslist ad and did it for almost 13 years on Saturdays. A little bit of Sunday type work. Some of those customers turned into being seasonal and repeat customers. Somewhere along the way, I picked up the heavy Victor out of sight, setting it with the setting tools and so forth. In 2017, 2018, decided to go full time. And my first year's goals was really to meet our living expenses. So in the fall and primarily the winter of 2017, I worked on marketing projects and a lot of the technology to support the business. Built a website, learned how to use WordPress to build the website, put an invoicing system in, put a CRM system in, and a whole lot of other things kind of to support the back side of the business. Our goal as far as trapping was to be somewhat unique in our area and emphasize the safety and kind of the transparency of the trap. I didn't want, a bunch of yards full of traps and that kind of thing. A lot of our customers had pets and small children, so to have, a bunch of traps hanging out in the yard didn't help us from a marketing standpoint. Most of the competition in the area was using big, heavy Victor out of sights. They still do today. And most of them are using trap covers. So they're putting buckets over the traps. So 2017, 2018, I went all in with trap lines. That was going to be our primary trap in 99% of the situations. And we're reasonably successful with trap lines. But I really felt that our catch rate could have been better, number one. Okay, so I did all the things that I should have done with the trap. Was told to do, bed the front of the trap. I even tried trapping on the side. I even tried trapping upside down, and reasonably successful with the trap. But again, I felt that the catch rate could be a little bit better, especially in those surface-based, kind of sloppier feeding tunnels. The other negative of the trap was checking it, right? There was no way for me to check the trap without actually pulling a plug out of the ground and giving it a little bit of a tug to see if there was something there. Sometimes you had to pull the trap all the way out, and sometimes that would even affect the set and you'd have to reset. So it took a long time to go through a yard to check those traps. And I'm all about efficiency, right? If you can be more efficient as an individual, or if you've got a company with employees and you can make those employees more efficient, you should ultimately be more profitable and have more margin in your business. So, believe it or not, that year I almost quit trapping because I didn't think that I had enough physical capacity to make enough money. Okay, so about that same time, I joined a European Facebook group, a mole trapping group, and I was introduced to most of the traps that are used in Europe that weren't used here in the U.S. So I was introduced to the Duffus or the barrel trap, the putang, and the Telpex. And that year, late 2018, I was starting to experiment with all of them. Ultimately, I landed on the Telpex. This is one of the first Telpex that I use. I'll talk about a little bit in a second. But the Telpex was very easy to set, didn't require a setting tool, lightweight, relatively safe, no trap or covers required. And the big thing is you could check it by looking at it. You didn't even need to bend over. You could just walk through a yard and check it. So I ended up buying something like 300 of these guys, which is what you could find in the US. And you can tell this is a very weak trap. I can literally probably set it with two fingers. Okay, so I learned really fast that in order to be successful with the trap, I had to do something a little different than they were doing in Europe. In Europe, they would set the trap, and then they would drop it in the excavated tunnel, and then cover the trap. Okay, with such a weak spring, any debris that's going to get in the way of those arms as they're snapping is going to affect your ability to catch a mole. So I developed a technique back in 2018 where I would excavate the tunnel, I would set the trap in the tunnel, and I would actually physically set the trap within the tunnel. And what that would do is that would clear debris for the trap arms, could snap and be more effective. So this video isn't really to talk about technique. We'll be doing another video on that, but that's what I did to make this relatively weak trap effective back in 2019, and I had lots of success. I actually went online with Sean Jones from Europe back in 2018, 2019, something like that. And we did a video call, and he followed me around, and he actually gave me a few more tips related to technique. But I think I had 15 traps in the ground. It was a fairly big property, and ended up catching 6 moles that day with Sean on the line. So a lot of credit to Sean. Sean was one of my earlier mentors, and Sean is a big advocate and proponent of the Telpex mole trap. So things evolved over the years, and I slowly found better versions of the Telpex trap, and continued on with the setting technique, made it a little bit better year after year. In 2022, I started writing Modern Mole Trapping, the book, and published the book in early 2023. The goal was to really leave a little bit of me behind someday when I disappear for my family, and really to transfer knowledge to my peers. Knowledge that I gained by comparing different mole traps along the way, and knowledge that I gained about using Telpex and trapline mole traps for specific environments. So that's kind of how the book came about. My goal was to write the book, keep it relatively inexpensive so that people could buy the book. In 2024, I worked with 5 different trap manufacturers and landed on the MoleSlayer as my go-to trap. We used this in 2020, late 2024, and actually throughout 2024 as our go-to mole trap. Very similar, almost identical to a Telpex that you'd find in Europe. And it's been a very, very effective trap for our business. The balance of our trapping, probably 90% is with the MoleSlayer mole trap. The balance is with trap lines. We use trap lines in uniquer situations where we have tight-fitting tunnels, discrete situations. I've trapped moles outside of restaurants, patio areas. You don't even know that trap is there. I even caught moles underneath tables at outside wedding venues while the wedding is actually going on and people are sitting at the tables. So still very much believe in trap lines, but I use them for unique situations and unique setups. We also introduced a MoleSlayer with integrated setting handles. Integrated setting handles are very nice. If you're trapping along fence lines, up against the foundation of houses, you know, you have to physically, the regular MoleSlayer, physically open those trap jaws. Deeper sets, the deeper you get into the ground, the harder it is to get leverage to open those trap jaws. And the setting handles make that very, very easy to do. Also nice if you have weaker hands, you know, having integrated handles versus handles like these that flop around and get lost. You'll find all our products on the Modern Mole Trapping website. Everything up there is something that we use. We're only going to sell what we use in our business. Some statistics: in 2019, I caught 442 moles. In 2020, I caught 1,429 moles. In 2021, my wife joined me, which was a godsend. Up until that point, I was doing everything. I was doing all the field work. I was doing all the communication with customers. I was answering the phone calls. I was invoicing. I was scheduling. I was doing all that stuff. So when she joined in 2021, that was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. In 2023, my son Zach joined us, and he took one of our, I guess we call our service areas are broken into 5 areas. He took one of those 5 areas, and that cut my field work back to 4 days a week versus 5 days a week. And don't get me wrong, those 4-5 days a week are long days. Usually we work sun up to sundown on a lot of those days, so they can be 10, 12 plus hour days just out in the field. In 2024, this last season, I caught, I think I ended up tabulating about 1,962 moles. It's probably more than that. And my son tagged on another 536 moles. And then there's some other aspects of our business too, like addressing pocket gophers and some things like that. So just wanted to cover a little bit of an overview of kind of how our business evolved, as related to traps, and we'll move on to a more deep dive on the technology or the trapping technique side in an upcoming video. So appreciate everyone's time. The other thing that I add before I depart is I'm always willing to help people, right? If you want some help with the marketing side, the business technology side, what do you need to support the business, as well as the technique side, I'm always available. And you just need to reach out to have a conversation, and we can even jump online and have video chats. So appreciate everyone's time and hope everyone has a great day or a great evening.